Now when a new car is launched, chances are you don't really know what it's like. I mean really like to drive, what it feels like, until you actually get in and drive it. But with the updated facelifted Figo, let's be honest, that isn't the case. We knew what this car would be like almost an entire year ago, and that's because Ford launched the Freestyle. And yes, it was raised a little high off the ground and had some rugged bits on it, but essentially that was the Figo facelift. So now, in 2019, that the Figo facelift is actually here, we know pretty much what to expect from it, right? Or do we? Well, that's why I'm going to drive it today and see if it can surprise and delight. And don't forget to let us know down in the comments what you think about the Figo facelift, especially this titanium blue variant. And be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to get a little ping every time we put up a new video. The outside gets the same changes that were applied to the Aspire compact sedan when it got its facelift last year. A new cellular grille, as Ford likes to call it, and new bumpers front and rear. At the front, the fog lamp housings get these L-shaped garnishes, while at the rear, there's a nice contrast section in the bumper. That aside is pretty much the same as before. Now if you opt for the mid-range titanium model, these new accents in the grille are finished in chrome, but because this is the top spec titanium blue version, the accents are gloss black. And so is the roof, and the wing mirrors, and the new 15-inch alloy wheels. Lower models still get 14 inches, sadly. Now this titanium blue with its black accessories and bigger wheels might remind you of the Figo S or Sports Edition, a sporty variant of the old car. The difference is that that car had lower retuned suspension, this one does not. Still, Ford assures us that they have worked on the suspension overall for the facelift, so let's see what the updated Figo drives like. Now of course, being in this driver's seat is quite familiar, not just from the old Figo, but also from the Aspire and the Freestyle that we've gotten used to over the last few months. Of course, the one thing that stands out most about this cabin is that new touchscreen, which wasn't on the old Figo. It's a nice 7-inch unit that sits bolt upright and is quite easy to reach. It's also got a very slick and nice looking interface and even comes with inbuilt navigation. What they've left out, however, is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and in this day and age, that seems like a glaring omission. In fact, you can get that on the top spec Aspire and Freestyle, so I don't see why they couldn't have offered it on this car as well. As before, the Figo is quite generously equipped. There are, for instance, auto headlamps and wipers, an auto dimming mirror, and on this top spec car, 6 airbags. Another thing I wish they could have remedied with this facelift are those dials, which are starting to look really dated, and they're also very small and hard to read on the move. Apart from all this, it's that wonderful Figo driving experience that we all remember so well. The driving position feels just spot on, the steering wheel feels nice to hold, and these seats even offer a bit of lateral support, which is good. And though those mirrors feel a little bit small at first, they actually give you quite a good view backwards. Now no surprises on the mechanical front either, because of course this car inherits the same engines and gearboxes as the Freestyle and the Aspire. So that means the old tried and tested 1.5 litre diesel engine with a 5-speed manual, the EcoSport's 123 horsepower 1.5 litre petrol with a 6-speed automatic, which we're not driving today, and the one I'm driving right now, the new 1.2 litre Dragon petrol engine with a 5-speed manual. Now this engine makes a healthy 96 horsepower, which is the highest of all the naturally aspirated 1.2 litre petrol engines in this class. And the gearbox is of course the new 5-speed introduced with the Freestyle and then subsequently on the Aspire, and it is a vast improvement from Ford's old 5-speed manual gearbox that you got in the previous Figo. While the old one felt a bit rubbery and a little bit difficult to slot at times, this one has much more of that rifle bolt action that engineers love to talk about. Now Fords are all about fun, and this engine had a lot to live up to when it was brand new. Now it felt alright in the Aspire and the Freestyle, but really this is the car that matters when it comes to fun driving, the hatchback. And I gotta say, it suits the Figo really well. It's not the most rev-happy engine, but you still will enjoy extending it to its red line every once in a while. But what it does really well is tractability. It's got a wide spread of torque, which means at any revs it will get up and go. Okay, there is a bit of a flat zone before 3000 RPM, but once you get past that, it gets a second wind. And when you do extend it, it does make this nice thrummy 3-cylinder noise. Now in the Aspire, which is a sedan and therefore needs to be refined, that might be a bit of a turn off. But in the Figo hatchback it sort of works, you know, just goads you on a little bit. Now unlike the Figo Sports Edition, which you remember was a sporty variant of the pre-facelift car, this one doesn't have lowered suspension. Yes, it does have the 15-inch wheels like the old one did, and they've had to fiddle with the suspension to suit that, but they haven't made it any stiffer or anything like that. It's still very much tuned with comfort in mind. But Ford engineers also say that inherently it is a sporty setup. So what do we think of that, huh? On a rough road like the one I'm on right now, you feel a little bit of lumpiness at lower speeds, but overall absorption is really good. I'd say the ride isn't quite as good as the Ford Freestyle, but you really couldn't call this bad at all. Now, unfortunately, there aren't too many corners out here on this flowing, sweeping highway here in Jodhpur. But I did drive it up a mountain road yesterday, and I can report that the steering is just that wonderful Ford steering that you love. It's sharp, it's quick, it gives you lots of feedback, and it generally contributes to this being one of the funnest handling cars around. Now sure, the diesel engine is the same as before, but it was always so good that frankly I just had to have another go in it. So this is the venerable 1.5 litre diesel engine with 100 horsepower and 215 Newton meters of torque. It's remained completely unchanged apart from the addition of this new gearbox, which is also seen in the Freestyle and the Aspire. There's not much for me to tell you that you perhaps don't already know about this engine, but it remains one of the best in this class. It is super tractable low down. For instance, I'm in 4th gear doing less than 60 and doing about 1500 RPM, and I don't feel the need to shift down. And once you put your foot down, it gets into its stride really quickly and just gets a move on. It feels like it's got a lot of grunt, especially in a car so small, and that only adds to the fun driving pleasure of the Figo. The gearbox is essentially the same new 5-speeder as in the petrol car, but of course it has different ratios for the diesel. And it's a vast improvement over the old IB5 gearbox that you used to get in the old Figo. And I think owing to the additional weight of this car, it does feel a little bit more planted than the petrol. And now a quick reminder of what the Figo is like in the back seat. Not too much has changed in the back seat of the Figo, and that is both a good thing and a bad thing. For instance, you still get pretty decent knee room thanks to this scooped out backrest, but taller passengers will find headroom a little bit tight. You are sat nice and high up, and you get a great view out of these large windows, but there aren't enough storage spaces back here. There are no door pockets at all, and all you get is that one big bottle holder between the front seats. There isn't even a central armrest, but they have listened to customer feedback and provided adjustable rear headrests. At 257 litres, the boot is not class best but on par with most rivals, but you will have to prepare to lift your bags over a high lip and lower them in. Now for the price, at 5.15 to 6.94 lakh rupees for the 1.2 petrol, 5.95 to 7.74 lakh rupees for the diesel, and 8.09 lakh rupees for the 1.5 automatic, it's actually cheaper than the outgoing car, which, given the changes, is mighty impressive. Now I asked at the start if this Figo facelift could surprise and delight, and while it isn't all that surprising, it certainly is delightful, and that's because the Figo remains one of the best driving cars in its segment. The new petrol engine works really well with this car, as does the new gearbox, and of course the diesel remains one of the best diesels out there in this sort of car. I like that they've also listened to customer feedback and added in things like adjustable rear headrests, but I wish they could have added Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as that is fast becoming the norm for cars with touchscreens. Still, it remains a very attractively priced hatchback, and for the money, what you get is a little bit more joy for your daily commute.